One of the most popular motifs in wire work are hearts, and I have made so many for designing for my books, for projects, for workshops, and you can see here are so many variations, just showing you how you could use beads to add on one side, to put swirls, to put dangles, to bead within. It just is endless. And oh, this one's so freestyle that it even wants to freestyle itself away. But my favorite that I designed many years ago, I'm going to be showing you now, which is using soft black iron wire, only because I want black. And I'm using some 0.4 as well to do the weaving. So about 6 inches for the pendant. And I've cut 2 pieces, and I'm going to start by folding each of the pieces in half. So find the center, bring the 2 ends together, and then just squeeze and double up the end because you want a point. This is going to be the tip end of the heart, so you want a nice pointed end. So bring it close together to start with to get that point, and then just straighten out the sides. So I'm sort of munching with my flat nose pliers on the sides just to straighten them out. So you want these V shapes to start with. So iron is not the easiest wire to work with, and the only reason I'm using black iron wire is that it never changes colour. You know, it's not a plated wire, which if you hammer it, the plating will come off. It's a solid black, and it does actually come off on your hands a bit as well. So I'm just going to trim these 2 ends so that all my ends are the same size. So start off with 2 V shapes. Of course, you can make this much bigger or you can make it much smaller. It's completely up to you. So for the first frame, you make circles. So using your round nose pliers, create 2 circles at each of the ends, and you want them to be the same diameter. And then pick up those circles with your flat nose pliers and create open spirals. So hold them and curl them around, leaving a space around the spiral like a snail shell. So round and round, and just bring these down. At this stage you won't know how far to go, so just start off bringing them down to a certain size. And this is one type of heart. You can finish there and link the 2 together, and you've got a heart. But this is going to be a frame within a frame. So there's one, and then for the outer frame, I'm going to use a mandrel. So you want to find something that you can bend around to make the outer part of the frame. So you're just curling the tops or the ends around to make that rounded top of the heart frame. And if it needs sort of rounding off a bit more, because iron wire doesn't flow as well as silver plated copper, but you can see there's the frame. I just need to make my inner frame just slightly smaller so that it will fit nice and neatly inside. So spend a bit of time making these 2 frames, and once you've got your inner frame with the spirals as you want it, the size you want, you can give that a stroke hammer on your steel block, which fixes it by work hardening it, and then it will be solid and won't keep moving when you start putting the 2 frames together with the weaving wire. So we're now ready, and you just place it in there just to check it's going to fit. And then what you're going to do is, with the very, very ends of the wire, just bend a right angle at the very end, just enough to make a link. So bend them in and then create that little hook of a link. don't finish off the link, just make it like a hook. And you're going to squeeze those together around the other frame. So there's the sort of part hooks. Place that in a frame and it'll land at the top of those spirals, and then just finish off by bending those links around to attach and secure to the top of the frame. So a bit of squidging with your pliers. And that will fix one frame to the other at the top. I'm just going to give that outer frame a little bit of a work hardening with my whammer hammer and on the steel block, and that just makes all the framework nice and solid and ready for weaving. So once you've got those two frames or those structures ready, you're going to cut 0.4 weaving wire. Of course you can do this in silver as well, or silver plated copper or whatever you want, or gold. It really doesn't matter. I just like the effect in black. And I'm going to use some seed beads to weave around the outer bit of the frame. So I've cut a nice long length and I'm attaching the center to the base, and that way I can work on one side of the frame with half the wire and use the other side for the opposite side. So I'm only going to have to use one weaving wire. Now you can go to the center base, but I'm just going to pick up some of these little beads and fill, sort of like colour in, I suppose, fill in the frame. So however many it takes to fill that gap, that outer space, I only need 4 seed beads here. And then I'm going to bind it around the outer side of the frame to secure. And then I'm going to come back to the other opposite side of the frame, secure around there. I mean, you can weave the whole thing backwards and forwards with beads, so you can, really make it nice and full of these little red seed beads. But to speed the sort of tutorial up, I'm actually going to just put one load of red beads, and then I'm going to weave the bit of black and then put another. So I'm going to alternate, and you'll see it has a nice effect just doing that as well. It gives a sort of space around it, but you can choose. If you love weaving beads, just carry on weaving with your beads. But I'm just going to use some blank wire in between and then add a few more beads. So this just is very repetitive. You're always going to be connecting to the side of the frame as you go, so that the beads don't slip and move around on the frame. So make sure that once you've picked up your beads, that you always secure once completely around the frame, and don't just go on to the opposite side. Otherwise you're going to find that it all sort of slips around a bit. So I'm alternating, as I said, with beads, then with a bit of weaving, then with beads and a bit of weaving. And I'll just carry on doing that. There you have it. So done all the weaving. You didn't have to watch me because you might have fallen asleep doing that. And now what I do is I just take the tips of my chain nose pliers and I just do a little twist or tweak on the wires, and that tightens them up, but it also gives a nice little sort of detail of a zigzag on the wires. It just adds another little decorative detail. But in essence, it's also tightening and firming up all the wires around the frame. And so all that's left to do, I think I want to fill that base. I could have put a bugle bead at that base point. So now I'm just going to come in and weave a little, one more red bead into that gap just to fill the frame up. There is really no, you don't have to follow everything I'm doing. I just want you to see this particular one, and then it'll give you perhaps some inspiration to do your own version. So I've done so many variations on this theme. They're never the same. And this one's just, for this one, I'm just adding an extra bead at the base because I felt there was a sort of a gap there that needed filling and needed colouring in. So I've just added one more bead there, and that's just woven in. Cut off the ends, make sure that everything is, all those little sort of spiky ends are flattened down with my chain nose pliers. And now we're ready to put a bead down the center. So you can drop a bead, you don't have to, but again, it's another decorative detail, a bit more color. So I've got another red bead, and I'm threading it with the structure wire, which is 1mm black iron wire, but whatever wire you're using, just use your sort of slightly thicker wire. And I could just make a normal head pin, but I'm actually making a little bit of a spiral because there are spirals on the design, and I'm just, continuing with that theme, and just flatten the spiral over the red bead, cut it off from the spool, and then I will make a link with the projecting end, and that can be suspended from that center space of the heart frame. So I just need to make a few jump rings, and I'm going to add a jump ring right at the center to hang that bead. Sorry, I'm out of frame. I realize I just bring that in back into frame. So open your jump ring sideways, find the, connected in between the two spirals, place your bead on the jump ring, and then make sure that the two ends are there, and then close up that jump ring. So it's all a bit fiddly, but with a bit of patience and perhaps a bit of swearing, you'll get there in the end. So there's a little dangly bead, another aesthetic detail to the piece. And now all that's left is to suspend it. So you could obviously put two jump rings there and then hang it from another one and put it onto a black chain or a velvet ribbon or something. But I'm going to make a little hanger. So I cut a piece of wire, sort of about 4 inches, find the center, wrap it around my round nose pliers, and to make a loop at the center, like a flying seagull. And then I make links on each side. So take your round nose pliers, make a circle, round nose pliers on the other side to make the same size circle, and then you can just spiral those in towards that middle loop and make that as short as you want. You can just spiral them in as much as you want, and that can sit suspended from the top of the heart, and that gives you one link to put a jump ring on and to feed it onto a ribbon or a cord. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a work hardening. Never hammer the crossed over wires, just the outer bit of that little hanger. And I made some jump rings earlier, so I'm just going to cut these off from the spool, and then I can connect those from the top of the frame. So I'll just find where I want to hang it, sort of at the center, feed the jump ring in, link it on, close that up, and I need to do the same on the opposite side. And this is so effective for lots of different styles of pendants. It also looks great for if you want like dangly earrings. You know, you can suspend three beads, three series of beads off these sort of hangers for dangly earrings. And there you have it. All you need to do is put a jump ring at the top and a cord. So have fun making your own hearts, and I hope you've been inspired.